Have you found that the life approach that served you well for decades now seems to be diminishing your joy? While others, perhaps with similar circumstances, health and resources in their 70s and beyond, seem to radiate a quiet joy, a kind of peaceful contentment that's almost magnetic? I've spent years wondering what creates this profound difference. The answer rarely lies in what the contented elders have added to their lives, but rather in what they've had the wisdom and courage to stop doing. I'm Vernon. At 68, I've lived long enough to make plenty of mistakes and, fortunately, to learn from some of them. I've come to a conclusion that surprised me. The path to genuine contentment after 70 often begins not with new activities or acquisitions, but with conscious cessation, intentionally stopping patterns that may have served us for decades, but now silently undermine our joy. While I'm sharing from a Western cultural perspective, I recognize that the aging process and the value of older age are viewed differently across cultures. In many Asian societies, elders are revered for their wisdom and experience, while in some traditional communities, the role of older adults is to preserve and pass down cultural knowledge. The principles I share can be adapted to align with your own cultural background and personal values. These patterns are simply adaptations that have outlived their usefulness, like continuing to wear a heavy winter coat when spring has already arrived. Today, I'll share the 5 crucial behaviors you must stop after 70 to experience the unique contentment that can make these years among your most fulfilling. The ancient Taoist philosopher Lao Tzu observed that, to attain knowledge, add things every day. To attain wisdom, remove things every day. This insight becomes extraordinarily relevant as we enter our 8th decade of life. After 70, many discover that the most profound transformations come not from adding new elements but from consciously, intentionally subtracting what no longer serves our authentic selves. The 5 behaviors we'll explore today aren't arbitrary. They are habits and mindsets that may have been essential during earlier stages but now function as hidden barriers to the unique gifts of advanced age. I particularly encourage you to pay close attention to our number 4 point, which addresses something many of us have been systematically trained to overlook throughout our goal-oriented lives. If you find yourself recognizing these patterns in your own life, please subscribe to my channel and share this video to help others discover these insights. Let's explore the 5 things you must stop doing after 70 for a truly fulfilling life. The privilege of a lifetime is being who you are, wrote Joseph Campbell, capturing wisdom especially vital in our later years. The first thing you must stop after 70 is prioritizing others' expectations over your authentic self. While considering others helps us build careers and families, I've seen how it often transforms into a prison of people-pleasing that outlives its usefulness. My friend Elizabeth, 82, told me about her revelation. She realized she was still making decisions based on what would please her mother who'd been dead for 20 years. After turning 75, she finally understood that if she didn't start living authentically soon, she might never experience what it means to be fully herself. 3 forms of external expectation frequently persist. Family role expectations established decades earlier. Generational proprietary standards from our formative years. Assumed expectations we imagine others have, often without verification. At 68, my own journey toward authenticity began when I grew a beard during vacation. When family members expressed disapproval, I reflexively reached for the razor before stopping myself. Why was I still making choices about my appearance based on others' preferences? I now practice regularly asking myself, if no one else's opinion mattered, what would I truly prefer? This simple question has revealed countless ways I was still living by external standards rather than authentic preference. The freedom to finally live authentically may be our most significant gift in this life stage, if we have the courage to claim it. Are you really strong enough to live your life without letting other people's opinions affect you? Share your experience in the comments section. Here's how to begin living more authentically today. Each morning, identify one decision. Perhaps what to wear, how to spend your free time, or even what to eat for breakfast, and consciously ask yourself, what do I truly want here? Setting aside others' expectations. Start small. These seemingly minor choices build the muscle of authenticity. Consider keeping what I call an authenticity journal for just 1 month. Simply note each instance where you chose your genuine preference over habitual people-pleasing. Many find that after 30 days, they're astonished to discover how rarely they had been listening to their own voice. Remember, this isn't about selfishness. It's about honesty with yourself after decades of compromise. My colleague Richard, a retired surgeon, shared for 40 years he knew exactly who he was, the surgeon everyone counted on. When arthritis forced retirement, he felt himself disappearing. He kept showing up at conferences, telling the same surgical stories, desperate to hold on to who he'd been. It took 3 miserable years to realize he needed to stop defining himself by what he could no longer do, and start discovering who he might still become. Where people fail is that they wish to elect a state and remain in it, observed writer Anais Nin. This wisdom becomes crucial in our 70s, when many of us resist the natural evolution of our identities. Throughout life, we build identities around our functions, professional roles, family positions, and special abilities. Yet, after 70, many of these roles naturally transform. When we cling to outdated self-definitions, we experience loss rather than growth. This identity attachment leads directly to our third point. When we define ourselves through diminishing capacities, we often become preoccupied with preserving and extending them, rather than embracing new possibilities. This often manifests as an excessive focus on longevity, at the expense of actually living fully in the present moment. As Carl Jung noted, the afternoon of life must have a significance of its own, and cannot be merely a pitiful appendage to life's morning. Before we move toward our next point, consider this. What identities or roles are you clinging to that may no longer represent your authentic self? How might releasing these create space for new aspects of identity to emerge in this unique life stage? Let me offer a concrete way forward. Create what I call a discovery list. Simply 5 activities you've always been curious about but never pursued. Perhaps it's watercolor painting, learning a language, or volunteering in a completely different field. The key is making a commitment to explore one new activity each month. Don't worry about mastery. Focus on discovery. Additionally, consider finding a transition group, whether formal or informal, where others navigating similar identity shifts gather. I've seen remarkable transformations when people share this journey. One retired executive I know found his artistic voice at 73 through such a group, something unimaginable in his former identity. These practices help you identify facets of yourself beyond the roles that have defined you, creating space for who you might still become. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it, observed Seneca 2 millennia ago. This wisdom speaks directly to a modern preoccupation that intensifies after 60, our tendency to focus more on extending life than deepening our experience of it. Having already discussed how prioritizing others' expectations and clinging to outdated identities disconnects us from fulfillment, I've observed a third manifestation of this disconnection. An obsession with future time that comes at the expense of present experience. My friend Margaret spent her 60s obsessively researching longevity strategies, measuring every morsel of food, exercising not for joy but life extension, filling days with supplements. One day she realized she was so busy trying to extend her life that she wasn't actually living it. She was postponing enjoyment for some imagined future that might never arrive. What changed for Margaret? She implemented what I now recommend to everyone struggling with this balance: the 80-20th rule of healthy living. She committed to maintaining health-conscious choices 80% of the time, while deliberately embracing joy and spontaneity for the remaining 20%. She created a weekly enjoyment day, where connection and pleasure took priority over rigid health rules. I've seen how 3 problematic manifestations of this mindset can trap us: continually deferring meaningful experiences for someday, excessive health optimization without balancing against present enjoyment, and allowing anxiety about potential limitations to overshadow current capabilities. My own awakening came during my grandson's birthday celebration. After years of restrictive dietary practices, I reflexively declined a piece of his birthday cake. The disappointment in his eyes triggered a profound recognition. What was the purpose of extending life if it meant declining participation in life's meaningful moments? That day, I started my own not waiting for someday list, experiences I'd been postponing for a healthier time that might never come. Each month, I commit to crossing one item off that list, whether it's a trip to the coast or simply enjoying an ice cream with my grandchildren without guilt. This brings us to our next critical point: the neglect of sensory pleasures and simple joys. When we're preoccupied with extending life, we often fail to fully inhabit the life we already have, missing the rich sensory experiences available to us, regardless of age or circumstance. I would be very happy if you would spread this wisdom of old age by sharing this video with those around you. Whether we're living to please others, clinging to outdated identities, or obsessing over longevity, all 3 of the things we've discussed above have the consequence: they disconnect us from the rich texture of immediate experience that is available regardless of age or circumstance. The 4th thing you must stop after 60 is neglecting sensory pleasures and simple joys. This is something that seems small but has a particularly profound impact on the experience of aging. My friend David described his revelation while watching his granddaughter eat an orange. His daughter was completely absorbed, feeling the texture, smelling before each bite, closing her eyes as she tasted. He suddenly realized he hadn't eaten that way in perhaps 50 years. He'd been consuming food while thinking about other things, rarely tasting anything fully. It was as if he'd been eating conceptual oranges rather than actual ones for decades. What changed David's life was implementing what he calls his 5 senses practice, a simple daily ritual that takes just 5 minutes. Each morning, he deliberately engages with one sense fully, savoring the complex flavors in a cup of coffee, feeling the sensation of warm water on his hands, or stepping outside to truly listen to the morning sounds. In Japanese culture, this mindfulness with everyday sensory experiences forms the foundation of ikigai, finding joy in the smallest moments that give life meaning. I recommend starting with what I call a sensory rediscovery tour. Choose one sense each week to deliberately reawaken. For taste, try eating one meal a week in complete silence, focusing only on the flavors and textures. For touch, spend time handling objects with different textures: smooth stones, rough bark, soft fabric with your full attention. For sight, visit a local garden or art museum with no agenda other than to truly see what's before you. 3 dimensions of sensory experience commonly become diminished, fully experiencing flavors and aromas rather than consuming on autopilot. consciously attending to physical experiences like stretching or feeling sunshine, and being genuinely moved by beauty in nature and art, rather than merely noting it. My own sensory rediscovery began during recovery from surgery at 65. On my patio one afternoon, I began truly listening to bird songs I'd heard but not noticed for years. This simple act opened a door to extraordinary pleasure that had been available all along. Now I keep what I call a joy journal, where I record one sensory delight each day: the pattern of raindrops on a window, the smell of fresh bread, the way sunlight filters through leaves. This practice has transformed ordinary moments into sources of genuine contentment. This reconnection with sensory experience naturally counteracts our tendency toward regret about paths not taken. The next thing we'll explore. When we fully inhabit our senses, we recognize the richness available in each moment, regardless of past choices. What sensory pleasure have you rediscovered recently that brought unexpected joy? Share your thoughts in the comment. The final thing you must stop after 60 is dwelling in regret about paths not taken. Of all sad words of tongue or pen, the saddest are these. "It might have been," wrote poet John Greenleaf Whittier. After decades of life choices, many of us become trapped in contemplating alternative lives we might have lived. Having explored how pleasing others, clinging to old identities, obsessing over longevity, and neglecting sensory pleasures all diminish our joy, we now face perhaps the most insidious happiness thief of all: regret about roads not traveled. My neighbor Thomas confided he spent nearly a decade after retirement torturing himself about career paths not pursued, relationships he'd let slip away, and places not visited. He was living in a ghost life of what-ifs. A health scare at 82 finally woke him up to the absurdity of spending his limited remaining time mourning hypothetical lives, rather than embracing the one he actually has. What helped Thomas break free from this regret trap was a practice I now recommend called regret transformation. It begins with a simple but powerful exercise. For each significant regret, identify what specific qualities or experiences you believe were available on that alternative path. Then, creatively explore how these same qualities might be accessed in your current life, though perhaps in different forms. For Thomas, his regret about not pursuing international work revealed a deeper longing for cultural exploration and adventure. Instead of dwelling on this loss, he began volunteering as an English conversation partner for international students at a local university. This brought the cultural exchange he carved into his life in an entirely new way, one actually better suited to his current circumstances. I suggest creating what I call a legacy project for your deepest regrets. This involves transforming the wisdom gained from your regret into a gift for others. One woman I know who regretted not pursuing music now sponsors youth music scholarships. She's found that her regret has become a source of meaning rather than pain. 3 forms of regret are particularly destructive: major life choice regrets about alternative careers or relationships, missed opportunity regrets about specific chances not taken, and character-centered regrets about personal qualities that limited experiences. My own journey with regret involved academic paths not pursued. The breakthrough came when a retired philosophy professor confessed his envy of my clinical psychology experience, revealing my assumption that the alternative would have been better was completely arbitrary. This helped me see that we often idealize roads not taken, imagining them without challenges or disappointments. I now practice regret transformation daily, identifying what qualities I imagine were available on alternative paths, then exploring how these might still be accessed in different forms today. This practice has transformed my relationship with past choices, from one of loss to one of possibility. What regrets about paths not taken might be consuming your mental and emotional resources? Let us know in the comment. The capacity to find peace with past choices may be essential to experiencing the unique gifts still available in your remaining years. As we conclude our exploration of the 5 things you must stop doing after 70 for a happier life, let's reflect on the wisdom we've discovered together. Stop prioritizing others' expectations over your authentic self, recognizing that the freedom to finally live according to your genuine preferences may be the most precious gift of this life stage. Stop clinging to outdated identities and roles, allowing new aspects of yourself to emerge, rather than remaining attached to diminishing versions of who you once were. Stop focusing on longevity over quality of experience, finding balance between reasonable health practices and full participation in the life you currently have. Stop neglecting sensory pleasures and simple joys, reclaiming the direct experience of life's ordinary delights that our goal-oriented culture often trains us to overlook. And last, stop dwelling in regret about paths not taken, recognizing how many doors remain open regardless of past choices. I encourage you to choose just one practice to begin with. Small, consistent shifts create lasting change. Remember, what served you well at 40 or 50 may be exactly what's limiting your joy at 70 and beyond. Thank you for your attention to these important considerations. If you found value in these insights, please like this video and share it with others who might benefit. The wisdom of aging well becomes more powerful when shared within our communities. Don't forget to subscribe my channel for more guidance on navigating the journey of aging with dignity, purpose, and joy. If you want to learn more ways to strengthen your independence and grow into a wise elder, check out the previous video at 65. I wish someone had warned me about these 9 uncomfortable aging changes. You can find the link in the video description below.